Alright, what I want to show you today is how to replace an existing outlet that has issues. The box is a little bit too deep, it wobbles around, moves around in the outlet. So the first thing you want to do is you want to test for power. Now I've already showed off the circuit breaker, which usually in the garage, sometimes they're in closets, but usually in the garage. I like to test using just a simple light tester. Plug both prongs into there and look for a light on your 120. Nothing there, I test it again just to make sure. Still no light here. We're going to test it one more time before we get started, but we're going to take the screws out to get the outlet loose. I like to pull the outlet from the top and the bottom. Don't touch the prongs yet because you just want to make sure they're not hot. I test it again. I just touch the leads on either side like this. Still no light, we're good to go. At that point, you're upgrading the outlet, so your new outlet will have push-ins. And what a push-in is, on the back of these outlets, if you can see here, these two round holes here allow you to just simply strip the wire and push it directly into here. You don't need to worry about making a loop and tightening these screws down. It's faster and more convenient. So what I like to do, instead of messing around and try to get them out of the push-ins, I just cut the wires off. It's faster. And you're not going to be reusing this older outlet, so you won't have any problems with that. I just cut all the wires off. And you can either keep it for later use or discard it. The next thing you want to do is I can separate out the wires, black on one side, white on the other. Now what you have in this box, you have a ground wire here. Your hot wire is always black, and your neutral wire. Neutrals together, blacks together, and of course your ground by itself. Now on your new outlet you see here, your gold screws are your hot, your silver screws are your neutral. The green is ground. Now in case you want to just make sure of that, right here on the back of the outlet, it says hot, and on the right here it says neutral. Here's your ground, okay? Now I like to put my ground, which is the little mouth of the outlet, if you will, towards the bottom. It doesn't matter which way it goes, go up or down. So set your outlet there. The next step you want to do is get yourself a pair of wire strippers. You don't need to use wire strippers, but it is faster. You can also use a sheetrock knife or a knife to strip the ends of these wires. Wire strippers are faster. So you get it. This is 14 gauge wire, so line up with the 14 gauge notch. I strip off about a ½ inch of the coating off the end of the wire. And that just repairs the wire. The next thing you want to do is just get yourself a pair of needle nose pliers. You want to take the ground wire and twist a loop into the ground wire. With the ground wire, you want to twist it clockwise or downward because you'll be tightening that screw clockwise. You want to go ahead and keep that loop in the wire as you tighten it. And I'll show you that as we tighten it. Now you don't need to use a cordless drill to do this. You can use screwdrivers. I'm just using a cordless drill. It's a lot faster. Now you don't want to twist the other wires. You don't want to twist any loops or anything in these other wires because we're going to use the push-in outlet. If you use an older style outlet, you're just changing it one for one outlet, you might have to put loops in all of them, just like we put in the ground wire, and use these side screws to tighten them down. Okay, now that you've stripped all your wires and you've put a loop in your ground wire, you're going to take your outlet and you're going to press these wires into the back of these holes right here. Now remember, the gold screws are the hot and the white screws are your neutral. Green is your ground. So all you're going to do on the gold side is press the hot wire into the hole. Press it and then give it a little tug, make sure it's set in there. Same thing with the other wire. It doesn't matter which of these wires is the top and the bottom. Now what you want to do is press your white wires into the other side. Your white wires are the white screws. Okay? Now your ground wire, you're going to take that loop that you made and you're going to loop it around that green screw, which is the ground. Once you have it looped around there, just tighten it down. okay? And once all that's done, we have some issues with this box. You can see this box is set into the wall about 1/2 inch on the bottom, about 1/2 inch on the top. It's kind of crooked. You know, what that does is when you try to tighten it down, your plug sinks in, it looks horrible on your wall. So I have a quick fix for that, which I'll show you, but the first thing I want to do is take these screws out because we're not going to be able to use the factory screws that came with the plug because the box is set too deep into the wall. They're plastic boxes. This is a fine thread screw, so when you try to tighten this, you can't possibly tighten it down. So I just pull these screws out. You have a little plastic retainer that keeps them in there, so you just pull both those screws right off. What you're going to replace those screws with is 1.25 inch long drywall screw. I like to use coarse thread because it grips better into the box. Now how we're going to fix our problem of our 1/2 inch deep box here is you're going to take some 3/16 plastic tubing. It's typically used for refrigerators, things of that nature indoors. You're going to take it and you're just going to put it against where the box sits in. You're going to put your thumb about 1/8 inch away from the wall on there as a marking point. Okay? You're going to take a sheetrock knife and cut a small length of that off. You could also use a pair of cutters, but a sheetrock knife just makes a nice clean cut. So that's our top spacer. Our bottom, same thing. Just push it up against the box, bring it out about 1/8 inch, cut it off with the sheetrock knife. Just be careful cutting it. You don't want to cut your finger off or anything. There it is. Okay, now you have your screws ready. I like to just set them in here. Put your top spacer onto the screw. Line it up with the top hole and give it a little snug. Don't tighten it down just yet. You're going to want to wait until you get to the bottom. Do the same, put your spacer on the bottom you made for your bottom. Line the screw up with the hole. Give it a couple turns till it begins to snug up. Now straighten the outlet in the wall where it's pretty straight and try to keep it straight up and down as well. Now don't over tighten this because it'll crush those plastic spacers you've just made. It'll crush them right down. So just tighten it up just a little bit. If you're doing it by hand, it's a little easier to control than this drill. But once you have it where it's flush with the wall, now this outlet doesn't move around anymore. It's nice and snug in there, it doesn't move around. It's nice and flush with the wall. Now you're going to put your cover on. Nice and flush, straight, looks good, doesn't move around. When you plug stuff in, this outlet's not going to move around anymore.
Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful.